Brought to you by ConcordiaTheology.org, bringing you resources that support the vigorous life of the mind in service of the gospel of Christ.
Welcome to Tangible, Theology Learned and Lived. We're exploring the ways in which theology permeates all aspects of life. Through conversations with faculty at Concordia Seminary, St. Louis, we will challenge you to deepen your theology and live out your faith in Christ. I'm your producer and host, Jessica Bordolo. I'll talk with a variety of professors on a variety of topics, something different every episode, but all pointing to the intersection of faith and daily life, because it's tangible, theology learned and lived. Happy Advent! It's the season before the big season of Christmas. We're taking time to think about the events right before Jesus was born. In today's special Advent episode, we'll discuss 3 poems written about the Incarnation, God becoming flesh in the womb of a peasant girl. Here to discuss a few Advent poems, we have Dr. Tim Saleska and Dr. David Schmitt. Dr. Tim Saleska is a professor of exegetical theology and the dean of ministerial formation. He's been on the faculty here at Concordia Seminary, St. Louis since 1997. In addition to his Master's of Divinity, Dr. Saleska holds a master's degree and PhD in philosophy. One of his areas of expertise is Old Testament wisdom literature. His many published works include the first volume of Concordia Commentary on Psalms and the Gospel-Centered Christian. He's been on the show before to talk about Ecclesiastes, Job, Psalms, but it seems he also has a taste for modern poetry. Dr. Saleska, welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's always great to see you, Jessica.
Since we're talking about poetry this morning, we had to invite Dr. David Schmitt. He is a professor of homiletics and literature here at Concordia Seminary, St. Louis. He's been on the staff since 1995. In addition to his Master's of Divinity, he earned a master's degree and PhD in English. His areas of expertise include preaching and the intersection of faith and literary culture. To add to his list of published works, he is in the midst of writing the book, Beholding the Sacred, Using Images in Preaching. His most illustrious project would be his role in Lectionary Kickstart, which is the other podcast that we produce. Check it out. Dr. David Schmitt, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So last month, Dr. Saleska was on the show sharing his love of poetry. We had a great response to the episode. And since I've recently discovered the Advent poems of Lucy Shaw, thank you, Dr. Saleska, we had to do this special Advent episode. So each of us has brought a poem about the Incarnation. You don't need to have these poems in front of you to enjoy today's episode. But if you'd like to follow along with them or listen to this episode again later with the poems in front of you, you can find them on our website, ConcordiaTheology.org. 3 poems in just 1 episode. We'll see how far we get. Dr. Schmitt, will you start with your poem? Tell us what you brought.
Okay. I brought a poem called The Coming by R.S. Thomas. And R.S. Thomas was an Anglican priest in Wales, has some absolutely beautiful poetry. So this is just a collection of his poems. And this, I think it was collected from a published work called in 1972.
Called That's a great title.
Yeah. I will read the poem, The Coming. And God held in his hand a small globe. Look, he said. The sun looked. Far off, as through water, he saw a scorched land of fierce color. The light burned there. Crusted buildings cast their shadows. A bright serpent. A river uncoiled itself, radiant with slime. On a bare hill, a bare tree saddened the sky. Many people held out their thin arms to it as though waiting for a vanished April to return to its crossed boughs. The sun watched them. Let me go there, he said.
Ooh,
I love that
That's
poem.
Oh.
Tell me about it.
Well, I don't know. When I read poetry, I like to think of the drama of the imagination. What is the drama that's happening in your mind? as you read a poem. And sometimes there's voices that are speaking, sometimes there's events that are happening, sometimes there's a really close and detailed look at a place. And in this poem, it's kind of a dialogue, a very, very short but significant conversation. There are two pieces of dialogue. It opens with God, and God says, "Look," and it closes with the Son, who says, "Let me go there." So we know that God the Father is showing something to his Son, instructing him, asking him, inviting him, "Look," and then we hear the Son's response, "Let me go there." And so it's about something happening in God that leads to the Son's desire to come to this earth. But what I love about the poem is that the title is the coming, not the going. If the title was the going, it would be, the Son going to come to this world. But the title's the coming. So the title invites us to think of this from our human perspective of the coming of Christ, but the poem is not at all about our human perspective and expectations of the coming, which is what Advent is about. Prepare, be ready, make yourself ready, prepare, all of these encouragements and exhortations to prepare. And yet this poem kind of posits the idea that our best preparation is overhearing the conversation that's happening among the persons of the Trinity that's leading to God coming into this world. And so we've got this desire of a Son to come to this world that God shows him. So that's kind of just the basic overview with none of the beautiful little details put in. And it opens with God holding in his hand a small globe. And so there's this moment, I don't know, for me, it's an echo of that moment when God places all that is into the hand of somebody. And here he's holding it in his own hand. And he asks the Son to look, and the Son looks. And that's when it just gets really complicated because of what the Son sees, right? It's just, and it's a broken beauty that the Son is looking at, right? You've got these things you've got language that evokes beauty, and yet you've got language that is horrifying. The complexity of this beautiful world that has somehow been, been compromised with a serpent and slime, and yet there's still the remnants of a brightness and a radiance to that world, which is what is being seen by the Son. I love the descriptions there.
Yeah. First of all, like you said, I love the small globe in his hand. That reminded me instantly of Psalm 8, in which, God is, they look at the moon in the sky, and God creates those things with his fingers.
Yeah.
So that always reminds me of those Russian Easter eggs where they are so intricate. And so here you have the immensity of God in this one image. He's holding this small globe. So from our perspective, everything is so immense. Right. From God's perspective, it's just this small
just a little globe in his hand, right?
And so you're working with those dichotomies, Dave, and I really love what you said about those paradoxes of beauty and ugliness mixed in. It reminds me of this kind of complete intertwining of good and evil in the world. And so, as bad as it is, there's this kind of redemptive part to it that you kind of see all the way. In spite of the scorched land, there's this light. You have this. The serpent is bright. Mm-hmm. I mean, right. That for me is the most perplexing, kind of mind-boggling paradox.
Well, and
it's
radiant
a river.
Slime.
Yeah, and radiant slime. Those two, that right there, it's like it gets at that what we are is in the creation since the fall. In the most ugly places, you find sometimes the most beautiful things.
Right.
And it's a true experience. And that God sees that, or that's pointed out kind of brilliantly. I like what Dave said, too, is when I read a poem, I like to think about, okay, what's going on inside of my mind as I make sense of this? What's happening? How am I making sense of it? And I paused a long time over that section of the poem because it's so powerful before we move on to the next stanza.
I mean, you could spend a long time talking about the fact that the poem begins with "and."
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, well, what happened before?
Yes.
And
there it is, yeah.
God held in his hand a small globe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's not but.
Right.
You know, for Lutherans, we'd want to put but there, I think.
Right.
But, you know, so something horrible has happened, but God held in his hand a small globe. Instead, it's and.
It's and.
That everything is as it always is, as it always should be,
Yeah.
right? All is well and all
Yeah.
will be well. You know, and it's kind of, and God held in his hand a small globe.
Yeah.
I just love it.
I love it. Yeah.
It's like, you know, for me, I don't know, for me, it's almost like, you know, whatever's going on in my life, come bring it here to this poem. And the poem says, and.
Yeah.
So Dave, all this is going on in your life? Oh, and
Yeah.
God held in his hand a small globe. It's just beautiful.
Well, right. For me, the word is small because it connotes such tenderness and vulnerability to the globe. I mean, I don't know. I just resonate. He held in his hand a small globe, and all of a sudden I get the impression this is really precious to God. He's holding it in his hand, this small thing. And notice the wonder. Hey, son, take a look at this.
Yeah.
I mean, see, it's so intimate, and the beauty and love that he has for this little object is conveyed in such an economy of words, so to speak. That makes it so powerful to me. I agree, Dave. That's a beautiful first sentence.
It is.
It really is.
It is. Oh, man.
I like the second verse the best.
What do you like about it?
Well, they're waiting for a vanished April, right? Like the Garden of Eden, all spring and sprouting and beautiful, and it's gone. And now it's all parched and dry. On a bare hill, a bare tree, like there's nothing there. Like they're just waiting. It's all gone.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
makes it sound so.
And it saddens the sky.
Yeah.
I mean, the way in which the natural world has emotions, right? I mean, in Romans, you have that passage about all creation is groaning, waiting for the children of God to be revealed. You have Psalms where, you know, mountains are crawling out to mountains and stuff. And here, we see that this event that involves a bare tree on a bare hill is something that causes the sky to weep, to be sad. We're with God. And so time is really strange in this poem. So is this a bare tree before the crucifixion? Right. Is it a bare tree after the crucifixion? Is it a bare tree awaiting the second coming? Is it the first coming that's being talked about here? I mean, it's like it can be many things because God is eternal. And so there's this strange dislocation in time. You're inhabiting all of time, and you're able to imagine how these words could make sense in different times, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And then it kind of, what I love is what motivates the son to go there, right? It's in the first stanza, the father says, look, and we're told the son looked. In this stanza, we're told the son watched. There's a difference between looking and watching. And the son watched them, the people with their thin arms held out to this bare tree that's saddening the sky, waiting for this April to return, to crossed bows. And the son says, let me go. So it's this, the depth of the son's connection with the people who are in this situation of longing is what motivates that son's coming.
Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Saleska, I want to know what you brought.
I brought a short little poem, and it's by Denise Levertov from her book A Door in the Hive, and it is entitled On the Mystery of the Incarnation. I looked through several of them that I thought to bring, and I thought, I'll do this one just to get some variety in there.
I want to hear it.
Do you want me to
You have to read it, yes.
All right, I will. I won't read as good a poetry voice as Dave, but I'll try. It's when we face for a moment the worst our kind can do, and shudder to know the taint in our own selves, that awe cracks the mind's shell and enters the heart. Not to a flower, not to a dolphin, to no innocent form, but to this creature vainly sure it and no other is godlike. God, out of compassion for our ugly failure to evolve, entrusts as guest, as brother, the Word. So it's to us that God entrusts the Word. And notice the whole poem has worked to make us the worst of creatures. But that's not why I chose this one, actually. I mean, all those things we can talk about.
That's for Lent.
No, but so there's an immediacy to it that I like. So here it is. When we talk about the mystery of the incarnation or the incarnation itself, or when we preach about it, we talk about what a mystery and how filled with awe it is. All right, we do all those things. But what usually happens then is we ourselves have to generate those feelings of awe and then apply it to the thing or to the poem. All right, and we've all done that. When we're sitting here thinking about what God did for us in Jesus. Okay, now this sense of awe is something that you're trying to generate within yourself, and you may or may not be successful. But in this poem, what I like about it is that when you get to the end, it actually elicits or evokes it in me, all right, if that makes sense. Notice that there's an experience that you have to have. Before the experience of awe, there's another experience you have to have that Levertov mentions in the first part of the poem. It's when we face for a moment the worst our kind can do and shudder to know the taint in our own selves. See, again, we hear how miserable sinners we are all the time and talk about it, but it doesn't generate necessarily the feelings, that experience of how terrible we really are, if that makes sense.
I love the for a moment,
yeah.
As if you cannot truly face this for long because it is too utterly overpowering.
That's right.
And so even when it's just for a moment we face it.
Yeah. And so notice that the burden of the poem as I see it. So how do you elicit, even just for a moment, that shudder of how bad we are? And it's almost only in contrast to the greatness of the mercy of God in sending the Word that you kind of begin to see it. And I think that's why you notice that there's this kind of delaying thing, delay until that last the Word finally comes that strengthens the impact of what God did for us in Christ on a gut level, not a cognitive level at all. Notice, I just love the language, that awe cracks the mind's shell. See, the sense of awe has to crack the shell, our exterior, our pride, which she starts to talk about, our thinking we are gods, that we're in control. How does the sense of the mystery of the incarnation truly get into the heart? Now she's going to try to get it there for us. And she does it by saying, but to this creature vainly sure it and no other is God like God. See, notice, I love how poets can do that. No other is God like, God entrusts now this tender language as guest, as brother, the Word. He doesn't say Jesus, or she doesn't say Jesus or the Christ. It's the Word.
Which is capitalized.
Word is capitalized. So it gives you entree into, for example, John 1, the creation. I mean, there's a mystery about the Word made flesh that makes her choice deliberate, I think, and adds to the power of this poem that I experienced in reading it.
Well, it's just, the choice of entrusts.
Yes.
not gives,
Yeah.
entrusts, right? There's a sacred duty that one has that I've entrusted you with this. And the question is, what are we going to do with something so precious that's been entrusted with us?
Yeah.
And entrusted not as host, but as guest.
Yeah. Right.
Right? I mean, as if we do control this
I
world,
know.
right? That
See,
he's going
yeah.
to come as our guest and our brother.
Yeah.
He's been entrusted to us. And, and yet, I mean, you can kind of imagine what the result is going to be,
Yes.
considering that these creatures
Yes.
are vainly
Are
sure of
That's
their
right.
godlikeness.
See, See, it's the care of language down to the individual words that when you stop to think, okay, what's happening in my mind that, like Dave said, entrust. Oh, notice how that sparked his imagination about a lot of things that are deep truths. And, he gave us this sacred trust, namely the Word.
Mm-hmm.
And notice what we ended up doing.
Right.
See,
right.
so it gives you access to the truths of the larger Christian story, and there the mystery of the incarnation deepens even more in that sense of awe. So by focusing on that word and trust just for a moment, awe is evoked in my mind again, gets past the shell of my mind into my heart. And the poet, they're a genius in kind of that use of language, which was amazing.
And it's just kind of, I mean, talk to me about the parentheses.
Oh, I know. I've wondered about that too. So it and Noah, I love the line, but to this creature vainly sure, it's so true.
Right.
Vainly sure it. So
Yeah.
notice there's a depersonalizing there.
Right, yeah.
We're just another creature like the dolphin. They're all innocent, but it.
And they're all happy to be
and
what
they're
they
happy
are.
to be what they are.
Right.
No other is godlike.
Godlike.
God, out of compassion for our ugly failure to evolve. I mean, I think...
Put in parentheses.
Yes, he
right,
puts
so-
it in parentheses. And first of all, there's this delaying, right,
Right.
of the end, which
Right.
has its own effect and
Mm-hmm.
kind of sidetracks you and takes you to think of God's compassion in a different way. So I take it as our ugly failure to be what he created us to be. Remember, God told us to go out and subdue the world and rule it and to serve him in doing it, and we just refused to do it. So notice throughout human history, the Enlightenment project thought, oh, humans can progress. We can get better. We can do better. We've all been disabused of that notion long ago. We don't morally, spiritually, relationally evolve at all. Things are as bad as ever. And I think that that's kind of where that line is going. So what does he have to do? He has to entrust the Word to us now.
Right.
Great.
So it kind of gives you this sense that the poem asks you to see your own worst that we can do.
Yes.
Right? And yet it also asks you to see that when God sees that, he has compassion.
Yes.
Right.
See, that's
and
right.
his action is to entrust this guest in your horrible world,
Yep.
this brother
Yeah.
in your suffering, into you,
Yep.
the Word. It's just
Yeah.
gorgeous.
See, notice, too, what I like. So notice as we talk about it, the things that happen unconsciously come to our conscience. So Dave is bringing things to the consciousness as we reflect on the poem, but the effect happens unconsciously before it bypasses any explanation I didn't have, but I got, I think, what the power of the poem was just by reading it. Now we go back and reflect on how in the world did this happen, and you kind of keep seeing things in there as you look. So, yeah.
Great, I love it. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So I brought a poem as well, and I want to hear what you guys think about it. It's called The Overshadow. It's from the book Accompanied by Angels, Poems of the Incarnation by Lucy Shaw. And Lucy Shaw, every Advent since she was young, has written a poem, and then she compiled them into this book. So we have her whole life kind of chronicled by poems that she's written by the Incarnation, and then she would give that like with their Christmas card, which I think it's very interesting to me. So the overshadow begins with a reference to Luke 1:35. It's part of the poem, so I will read it to you. The overshadow. The power of the Most High will overshadow you. Luke 1:35. When we think of God and angels and the angel, we suppose ineffable light. So there is a surprise in the air when we see him bring to Mary in her lit room a gift of darkness. What is happening under that huge wing of shade? In that mystery, what inbreaking wildness fills her? She is astonished and afraid. Even in that secret twilight, she bends her head, hiding her face behind the curtain of her hair. She knows that the rest of her life will mirror this blaze, this sudden midnight. So it's just all in 1 second, right? When Mary is in her room by herself and the angel comes to her, it's just that one little bit of time, like many of Lucy Shaw's poems comparing light and dark, or the intersection between the physical and the spiritual, and it goes back and forth between those, with the light being the angel and the darkness being what's happening in her womb. What inbreaking wildness fills her? God, the Son of God, is inside her. It's wild. It's not something calm and peaceful. This is God, all powerful and all big and huge, and he's all crammed up into her little womb. Like, what is this inside of me? I think prophets spoke about the upcoming Messiah, and they wrote about it, and kings waited for him, and the people cried out, but he was never in their womb. Like, what would that feel like? And she's astonished and afraid. And then this last line, that her whole life is changed now. Her whole life is going to mirror the blaze of the angel, but then the sudden midnight inside of her.
Yeah. Mm. One of the things I like about it is how she takes an overlooked detail of the text. You know, we read this thing every Advent. Mm-hmm. The power of the Most High will overshadow you. So she takes that one word and does a deep dive into it. I actually read this in our reading and preaching the word class for opening devotion when I was teaching, and we had a discussion about how you kind of how good poets carefully read biblical text, but they read other kind of anything very carefully, and then you start to notice things that can be very helpful for preaching and teaching and understanding the word or the mystery of the word. And so you have this paradox of light darkness working through the poem, which I find really attractive and interesting.
The only other place in Luke where it's used the word overshadowing is in the Transfiguration. As he was saying these things, a cloud came and overshadowed them, and they were afraid as they entered the cloud. And then the voice spoke, and it was Jesus all transfigured and glorious and bright, and then they're overshadowed.
Yes.
Just like at the incarnation, the Annunciation.
That's right. And there's another reference I really like was in Exodus 14, where you have this. This has always intrigued me. It says there was a cloud and the darkness, and it lit up the night. Remember when the cloud was behind that? See, there's that paradox that you're seeing that gives that puts this verse in Luke within a pattern of texts about that Lucy Shaw picks up on. Here you have angels. You always think of bright light when angels come, always. But here he overshadows her, or she over the angel. And I never thought about that until I read this poem, really.
And all the things we see are just shadows of the actual real thing. This is just his shadow, because we can't even see who he is. It's something better and brighter than we could understand.
I like the language of hiddenness awaiting revelation. That, you know, it's a gift of darkness, it's a mystery, it's a secret twilight, and it causes her to hide her face behind the curtain of her hair. So her body itself becomes a covering for something that is going to be revealed, but at this point, she's holding on to this sudden midnight, this gift of darkness. And so there's this, in addition to the darkness and this light, there's also this secrecy, hiddenness that, she carries with her, awaiting its revelation. And, there's a lot of, Advent is a time of hope, and we hear promises, and we have to carry those promises within us. awaiting the revelation. And we, and I think sometimes we can be so boisterous and bold trying to claim our promises, claim this miracle from God and that type of a thing, when instead the posture is one of humility and hiding and holding on to a gift that is dark and a mystery and yet is going to be revealed in some day. And so your entire life is mirroring this midnight. It's nice, really.
It is nice. I love that last line. She knows that the rest of her life will mirror this blaze, this sudden midnight. And spoken so much, I think, from the perspective of a mother of a child. Does the shadow, the midnight, foreshadow the destiny of the child? Both the light. So she uses, will mirror this blaze. Okay, what exactly blaze is she talking about? The blaze of the child, who we all know is the light of the world, who shines in the darkness not overcome it. And yet there's a darkness there because this child's going to have to die. She's going to lose her son. And kind of all of those kinds of things are reflected in this blaze, this sudden midnight. Again, just like in our first poem, you have these paradoxical notions pushed together in this really wonderful, complex truth, because both are true. Well, I was glad you were going to do this, because as a woman and a mother, how you might approach this poem on that affective level as you think about a child in your womb versus what Dave and I how we might experience this poem.
Sure. It's all darkness and mystery. Like, you don't know what's going on. Yeah. We didn't find out if our children would be boys or girls until they were born. We decided to wait. So it is a mystery. You're like, what's going on in there? Mm-hmm. Like some secret, wonderful thing God has made. But it's wild, too, because you can feel the baby kicking you, and your whole body has reactions of being pregnant, and sometimes they're not good.
So that's probably why you resonated with that inbreaking wildness fills her more than I did. I mean, I think it's a powerful line, but much less experiential than I suppose you have it. That's interesting.
Now, the final question on all the shows is this: what do you want our listeners to remember?
I guess that anything that you look at in life can be looked at in another way if you consider that God is looking at it in love and action for you.
Dr. Saleska, what would you like our listeners to remember?
That truth is many-sided, and there's many perspectives, and we do the whole wonderful news of the gospel an injustice when we make it facile or thin. But these poems helped us see the incredible mystery that it really is what God did for us. And they do it in their wonderful, marvelous ways. So we can enter, perhaps in the Advent season, much more into this story of what God has done for us and what awaits us because of it, I suppose.
This is a great conversation. Thank you. Thank you both for coming. I got to sit and talk about poetry with two of my favorite professors. This is fabulous. Happy Advent to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was fun.
I had a super good time.
Dr. Schmitt, thank you for being on the show. And Dr. Saleska, thank you for being here. The poems we discussed today were Mystery of the Incarnation by Denise Leverton from the book A Door in the Hive, The Overshadow by Lucy Shaw from the book Accompanied by Angels, Poems of the Incarnation, and The Coming from the book by R.S. Thomas. You can find more episodes of Tangible on all the major hosting apps or on our website, concordiatheology.org. We have a lot more free resources there. You should check it out. If you'd like to see this show continue, you can subscribe for free, share, leave a review, check out our new YouTube channel. I'm your producer and host, Jessica Bordolo. Join me next time when we talk about the intersection of theology and daily life, because it's tangible. Theology learned and lived.